Good Thursday evening to you. How is everyone? It is good to see you. It is good to be seen by you and all that happy stuff. I'm so glad you're here. And who am I to be glad that you're here? Bill Sylvie, aka the Dungeon Delver, in the house. So I hope everybody's having an absolutely fantastic Thursday. As fantastic as a Thursday can be. And a week from today, my American compadres, we are going to be celebrating the Day of the Turkey. We're going to give thanks and we're going to relax. We're going to put up our feet. We're going to have some pie. We're going to watch some football. What that means, show impact wise, there will not be a show. I don't know. We'll have to see about Wednesday and Friday, but Thursday, definitely no show Thursday. I'm just letting you guys know that in advance. Praxis, is good to see you. Doomsword, what is happening? I'm cracking open a cold one and pouring that right up. I have been enjoying slowly causing casualties on this. This is a local brew. This is key lime apple cider. It has notes of both. It is basically just a very sweet cidery beer, and I've been thoroughly enjoying it. That's the last of them. So, I don't know. I may switch to something a bit more wintry, but we'll have to see. Anyway, they're not a show sponsor or anything, by the way. But tonight, folks, have I got a show for you? I'm looking for my notes. I literally do. I have a show for you. Of course, I have a show for you. Tonight, we're going to talk more Deities and Demigods. That's right. That classic tome. We are at 20,000 fathoms and descending. That's how deep we've dove into Deities and Demigods. So we're going to keep that train rolling tonight as we switch forms of transportation from submarine to rail. And yeah, that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Now, tomorrow, I think probably tonight we'll easily finish up the Norse myths and slide on into the Sumerian myths. Will we meet Gozer? I don't think so, but one never knows. But we'll get into the Sumerian myths. I don't know that we'll finish the Sumerian myths, but if we do, then tomorrow night we'll start looking at the appendices, because remember what I said at the start of the deep dive for Deities and Demigods, the let's read. This is not just going through and looking at all the stats saying, can we kill it? Can we not kill it? Look at the bare boobies. The same volcano god. Many Shubs and Zuls knew what it was to be roasted in the depths of the floor that day, I can tell you. No, there's data in this book. There's stuff in this book that is more than just, could my party kill the Chinese goddess of mercy and childbearing, Kuan Yin? And the answer is no, nobody can. No act of violence in the universe can be directed against her by any creature anywhere. So, So anyway, that's where we're going to be. We're going to be looking at the mechanics. We're going to be looking at planar stuff. There's a table which I don't know that we'll focus that much on, but just to kind of give you guys an idea of flavors for your clerics to experience, with the whole thing of what do I sacrifice to my god and when. there's a whole table of that. We'll kind of have a quick glance over and so on and etc. And then either tomorrow night or Monday night, we will be wrapped up with Deities and Demigods. Now, will I deep dive another book like this? I don't know, because this has taken a massive amount of show to do. So I honestly don't know. But we'll see. We'll see. Some people have said that they want to hear or see or read or whatever. They want me to do this same thing, but with Unearthed Arcana. I have a lot of unresolved issues with Unearthed Arcana, and I don't want to. It's a sticky subject. Maybe we can look at parts of Unearthed Arcana, but I don't know about it for a deep dive, but we'll see. We'll see. So without further ado, because we're 7 minutes in the show and there's a lot of ado that's happened, let's a don't. But let's a do. It's a me. Look now to Deities and Demigods. So our last god that we talked about prior to this in the Norse mythos was Uller. We talked about Uller, and that then takes us on to the Valkyries, the choosers of the slain. We have a Dave S. LaForce Valkyrie there, looking very slender and fit. Chaotic neutral. These ladies are not your friends. All right? They're not there to get busy with you and make you feel good about dying. In fact, there are some Norse legends, not expressed here in this volume, but there are some Norse legends that say the Valkyries choose the heroes from the dead and the soon to die. And that latter part, they will take care of themselves. You're lying there on the battlefield, you've taken a sword through the gut, you're like, I think I can make it. Just stitch me up with some cat gut, give me some poppy seeds to chew on, you know, some cottonwood, something like that to take the edge off. And yeah, they might show up and say, "Oh no, honey, no, baby, no, sweetie, you're going to Valhalla, and I'm going to help." So yeah, again, these ladies are not your friends. All right. They have 100 hit points, 2 attacks, damage by weapon type, decent stats all the way across. They're 15th level fighters and 8th level bards. These warrior maidens ride Pegasi of maximum hit points. These mounts are the offspring of Sleipnir. It is the Valkyries' duty to bring the souls of the best and most valiant slain warriors from the battlefields to Valhalla, the Hall of Odin. They act as serving maids in Odin's Hall and handmaidens to Frigga. When they ride forth to choose the slain, their armor gives off a pearly, flickering light that is said to cause the Aurora Borealis. Aurora Borealis. They travel ethereally and are only visible to warriors in mortal danger. So if you see them, you're going to die. Again, they're not your friends. They're not there to make you feel good about it. They're there to collect on debts to Odin. You don't have to play him as evil, like, Hans is feeling better and they got him back on his feet. Nope, I'm chasing him down to his house. I'm going to kill him and anybody that tries to get in my way. That's not what I'm saying. Vidar, god of strength and silence. Lesser god, 380 hit points. Chaotic good. He's a druid, a ranger. He doesn't have bard classes, though. Nice raisins on their cupcakes. Vidar, a son of Odin, is a stoic bastion of strength for the Aesir in times of need. He speaks only when he must, and then he uses as few words as possible. Though not a sociable god, his hate of evil is strong, and when the Aesir don't need him, he combats it in his own way. I'm bad, Vidar. Who sent you? Though not a greater god, Vidar's strength and constitution are renowned, and he is a fearsome opponent to enemies such as giants. On his right foot, he wears a magical iron shoe with which he can strike twice per round for 8 to 80 points of damage. Imagine getting kicked in the jubblies for 8 to 80 points of damage. Your ding-dong would enter orbit and never return. Any object or person that Vidar steps on with a shoe, successful 2-hit roll required, will be pinned until the god chooses to let them go. No creature can fight or cast spells under Vidar's shoe. At will, he can make a 24-inch radius around himself completely silent. Must be effective around the house on a Sunday afternoon when he just wants to read the sports section. This effect cannot be countered by dispel magic, spell turning, or anything else. So naive. I'm a god. So that's Vidar. And there is a lovely tableau. Well, let's zoom out. Can we zoom out on that? Thank you. Thank you. This is by this is Jim Rosloff's handiwork here. And we love it. At will, Vidar can make all magic users irrelevant. Pretty much. Because I'm not thinking there's not a lot of magic user stuff that doesn't require verbal components. Even wands, staves, and rods, you have to say a command word. Sumerian mythos. Mythos, the Sumerian maker. This culture was among man's first attempts at civilization, and it is one of man's first recorded religions. Because of this, the gods are unusually close to their worshippers, and every worshipper is a servant of his or her god. Every god an angel, every worshipper a cleric. Every city has a patron deity. All the people belong to that temple and none other. All officials of the city are clerics of the temple, and the high priest is always the king or queen of that city-state. The temples have a stepped pyramid shape in the manner of the Aztec temples. Sacrifices and gifts to the deities are all made as items that will dress up altars and the temple surroundings. The richer and more valuable, the better. The clerics themselves make items to be sacrificed directly to the gods by burning at the same time that human lives are sacrificed to the gods, primarily condemned criminals. So y'all going to put me to death? Well, we're going to go to church. Oh, wow, that's great. To put you to death. Oh, no. Each temple has an image of its god on a raised platform in an inner shrine closed off to the public. Before the image is a table used as an altar that has all the gifts of the year placed upon it. There's a central courtyard beyond the main entrance for public worship. The building will have side chapels and storerooms of several types. This main entrance to the temple is set at right angles to the inner temple. The more important temples are raised up on artificial hills or ziggurats of red brick. Ziggurat? No, thank you. I don't smoke. Clerics serve the best meat and drink to the gods on special tables beside altars. The food is burnt every night for the gods' use. The 7th, 15th, and 25th days of the month are holy days. A sacrifice is always held on the night of the new moon. There are 3 degrees of punishment for clerical sins. Committing the first major transgression results in an acute, severe gastrointestinal disease for the offending cleric. The second transgression results in a punishment of 15 troubles, each worse than the last, though none are automatically fatal. Thus, a cleric might be stung by a bee, then sprain an ankle, then suffer food poisoning, etc. If these warnings are not enough, the third transgression results in death of the offending one. Any transgression can be erased in the sight of the deity by a sacrifice sufficient in proportion to the nature of the offense. These sacrifices must be important and or expensive. Clerics of this pantheon must shave all hair from their bodies and wear kilts and robes of white with colorful borders. The Sumerians invented Nair. The shape and color of the border indicates the cleric's patron deity. Female clerics wear rounded conical hats to cover their baldness. You could just not shave your heads. Just a step saver, Sumerians. Note, the geographical area of the Sumerian mythos is almost exactly the same as Babylonian. Though separated by time, they share similar cultures and ideas. The overlap is much in the same manner as that of the Greeks and Roman mythoi. While we could have listed these groups together, we thought that there was enough diversity between these two sections to warrant separation. In some cases, this diversity has been deliberately increased in order to prevent overlap. And we have some temple stuff going on there that is, that looks like LaForce to me. Sort of minimalistic, impressionist almost line style. But let's start with the chief of their deities, Enlil, air and war god, ruler of the pantheon. He is a greater god, and as such, having 400 hit points, neutral good, worshippers align, all good alignments, symbol is a pickaxe, kind of interesting, 20th level cleric, 19th level ranger, 15th level magic user, 12th level bard, and he's rocking all the good stats. Always appears as a tall man, boy, with a heavy dark beard and curly hair. He gets to have hair, but not the clerics. Praxis, that is a good point. That is a good point. That goes up. As you said the other night, this is all Jim Ward, amazing output producer and inclined towards high power levels. Very true. Very true. Let's see. Anyway, he always appears as a tall man with a heavy dark beard and curly hair. At will, the god can shape change and ESP at any distance. Enlil can raise electrical storms and from them direct lightning bolts at targets up to a mile distance, doing 40 points of damage per strike. Save versus spells for half damage. Unlike the other deities of this pantheon, Enlil has the power to raise the dead. He takes no damage from lightning or electrical attacks. In battle, the god wears a war helm that is not affected by anything. When Enlil is wearing it, he feels no shock or harm from objects hitting the helm. In any given melee, when attacked by only one weapon, that weapon is forced to hit the helm. In other words, if Enlil were fighting Thor, who uses Mjolnir, the hammer would be forced to hit the helm every time, no matter what Thor wanted, and Enlil would feel nothing. Oh, that would be hilarious to see played out. Clang, clang. Enlil just standing there. Let's see. If attacked by two or more weapons, Enlil chooses which shall strike his helm. The god also wields a stone axe in battle that does 50 points of damage per strike, but no damage if it hits metal. Enlil's percentage chance of not hitting metal, if in combat with a metallically armored opponent, is equal to the base armor class of the opponent times 10. For example, Enlil would have only a 30% chance of striking an unarmored portion of a person in plate mail if he hits. Enlil's axe does disenchant any magic item that it comes in contact with, no save. It cannot be broken, will teleport to the god's hand if taken more than 100 feet from the body of the god, and has a 25% chance of negating any spell tossed to the god before the spell reaches him. In addition, Enlil has 50% magic resistance and a saving throw if applicable. I think that's what they're sacrificing on the altar, and a bull. A bull. Get it? A bull. What do you people know from funny? All right. Let's zoom in on Enki. Enki, god of the rivers and oceans, a greater god with 388 hit points. Number of attacks, 2 every other round. Damage per attack, 35 points. He's lawful neutral. 20th level cleric, 13th level paladin, 13th level magic user illusionist. Praxis wants to send me to the corner. Oh, you don't really want me to stand in the corner for 10 minutes. That would be an awkward show. He's also a 10th level bard. The god is always green in color. The god is always green in color in any of his human manifestations, and he shape changes. Enki is aware of and can summon any being that has died in the water to do his bidding. One being of any species can be summoned per day. The summoned being instantly appears and does the bidding of the god. That particular being cannot be summoned ever again. Enki moves like a blink dog and is immune to all forms of heat. He can only teleport to areas where there is water in quantities of more than 50 gallons. Man, Praxis really did not like that pun. The god is known for his great hatred of demons, and he will slay any person in his presence that has ever dealt with these monsters in a friendly manner. Better not send my Monday night group to meet Enki. In battle, he fights the strongest enemy facing his group first. He uses a small jade green mace that has several powers. It strikes for 35 points of damage on a successful hit. It is ethereal when not held by the god. It negates any spell below 6th level of the god, and it will never cause harm to lawful neutral beings it strikes. His armor, helm, and shield are made out of water and automatically absorb the first 2 hits made against the god in any given melee round. Enki is also the patron of jewelers, goldsmiths, and stonecutters. In Zagreb, Ibn Zlotny Dieb. All the girls in Zagreb will think you're a goldsmith. Naturally, because of Enki's interest in this area, only the finest jewels, gold items, and carvings can be given to the god's temple in homage. Inanna, war goddess and goddess of love. Gents, guard yourselves. She is a greater goddess. Bit chilly there in the 9 hells. She's lawful evil. I've had a good run. She's 10th level cleric druid, 20th level ranger, 20th level magic user illusionist, 15th level bard, 15th level thief, 10th level bard. She usually appears in the form of a beautiful woman and will on rare occasion pick exceptionally brave warriors in battle and aid them. Well, that's nice. That's not so bad. I mean, evil is kind of relative at that point, don't you think? This aid takes the form of that warrior never being hit, always making his or her saving throw, and never missing an attempted hit. This lasts for the duration of the melee. At will, the goddess can shape change, animate statues of herself in her temples, and can summon from the dead any being she has killed in the past battle to aid any given side, only on a one-time basis per being. She uses a small double-bladed brass axe in battle that has the following abilities. It strikes for 25 points per hit, causes any armor it strikes to turn to dust, no saving throw, and the user is never surprised. Her breastplates negate any damage caused by heat, cold, fang, or claw to her body. The goddess is a fickle being and requires the sacrificing of the best in magical or high-quality weapons on her altars. In battle, she drives a chariot pulled by 7 lions to which she is given the gift of flight. They are otherwise normal beasts which are under her complete control. I just don't see what she does that merits her being a being of hell. Have to ask Jim Ward about that one day. Ki, or Kai, goddess of nature. A greater goddess with 380 hit points. She is neutral. She's a paladin, 30th level cleric, 14th level druid, 20th level magic user illusionist, and let's go ahead and throw in 20th level bard. Praxis. Praxis. And she has a great set of stats, doesn't she? That is a Dave S. LaForce drawing of her. Key appears as an elfin woman of great beauty. The goddess cannot be touched by anything material cast through the air at her. At will, she can shape change into non-monster forms only. She can give the luck of the gods to those she favors. This luck takes the form of the recipient, always making his or her saving throw and suffering only half damage from any attack. This lasts for a 24-hour period. Any non-monster animal of any species it serves to summon instantly in any number up to 100. No species can be summoned more than once per week. Thus, she can summon 100 tigers, 100 lions, 100 condors, etc. in any given week, and they will instantly come to her call. She can only summon one type of creature at a time. She also has the power to instantly know where any given thing is on the surface of the earth. Dear sweet Key, I lost a thumb drive that I had some 3D printing stuff on. Could you please help me find it? Amen. Key's clerics are druids. Her great druid may receive communications directly from the goddess. And a lovely, lovely illustration there. Another LaForce drawing of Key in repose. Nanasin, moon god, you and your crazy moon language. 399 hit points. It's a lesser god, chaotic good. Jet black axe over the moon. 13th level cleric druid, 16th level fighter, 15th level magic user illusionist. And let's throw in 15th level bard. This human-appearing god is always bathed in a blue glow that acts as a rod of beguiling to all who come within 10 feet of it. At will, Nanasin can negate any of the following: heat, cold, electricity, light, and darkness. He uses a +3 jet black axe in battle, which strikes for 30 points of damage and acts as a sword of sharpness. Nin Hersag, the goddess of death. A lesser goddess. I'm going to go ahead. Oh, she's neutral. One of those nuanced approaches towards the goddess of death, or gods of death. She is a 13th level druid, an 11th level fighter, 30th level magic user. Always appears as a dark-skinned female. She is the mistress. What is she the mistress of? Of gravity and magnetism, and has complete control over these forces. She can give the gift of flight to those she especially favors. She also has the power to wither those she hates. This withering takes the form of a special 9th level spell that works like 3 charges from a staff of withering. It requires the same components as a wish spell. Utu, the sun god. 377 hit points, infinite move, which, you know, he's photons, so you get it. Special attacks, light rays and polymorphing, special defense, heat aura, and regeneration. His alignment is chaotic good. His plane is nirvana. You know, it's funny. He's the sun god. He's from nirvana. But I would have thought with the lights out, it's less dangerous. Who knows? Look, they can't all be winners. This deity, always in human form, is constantly bathed in a dazzling 10-foot radius yellow glow. The glow causes all enemies to suffer -2 on all strikes at the god, and all undead withered to dust at a touch of his glow. He can cast 2 light rays per round at anything in sight, each of which does 20 points of damage whenever they hit. He regenerates all lost hit points when touched by heat of any degree above 100 Fahrenheit. And he is able to polymorph living matter into dirt with a 3 on the being saving throw. Praxis ain't having it tonight. In battle, the god throws bits of the sun he has pulled away. These sun bits can be thrown up to 2 miles away from the god, and they strike for 50 points of heat damage when they hit. His aura also causes anything striking his body to melt unless the thing is indestructible. Cloud chariots. All of the gods and goddesses have cloud chariots at their personal command. These devices appear to be clouds that give off a dazzling radiance. When a god steps on them, they become platforms of transportation for the gods and also a means to impress worshippers and non-believers alike. A cloud chariot travels at a rate of 24 inches and can teleport itself to any place where there are clouds in the sky. It is unaffected by any material force and is never destroyed. The gods will always appear to their clerics on such devices to prove that they are gods. These devices are capable of carrying anything the controlling deity wishes. I'm going to make some Barry Gordy the Last Dragon jokes, but I don't know. Well, give it a shot. And here are some Sumerian worshippers, because the god just rolled up in his cloud chariot. And guess what? Guess what? That finishes all of the deities in Deities and Demigods. And we now get to the appendices. And we're going to explore this fully. We're definitely going to explore this fully because we have the known planes of existence. And look at all those charts and tables. And then there's random monster tables, things you can encounter, ethereal combat, astral encounters. It just goes on and on. But we're going to get to that. And I think it merits kind of a full, deep dive on its own. So we can really kind of get into it. I've only got about 15 pages of the book left. So we're gonna come back to that tomorrow, and we're gonna start with Appendix 1, and we're just gonna go through all of it. The Bronze Age culture has always fascinated me. Civilization, cosmopolitan, closely interconnected via international trade, and then utterly collapsed. Yeah, civilizations rise and fall like that. History isn't kind. And what's the longest lasting empire you can think of? The Egyptians had a hell of a run. What was that, 5,000 years? You want to discuss Figure 3? Well, we'll get to it. Don't you worry. We'll get to it. But I feel like it deserves like a fuller length of time to get into than just 20 something minutes before we hit the bottom of the hour. One thing I would like to bring up, this is a little preview. I'm going to Tales of Tabletop Triumph is a thing that's going to happen in the new year. And if you haven't heard me talking about that, let me sales pitch it to you guys again. There's a lot of people who bring a lot of hang-ups, personal attitudes, to quote Chet Baker in the documentary filmed about him towards the end of his life. As he gets ready to play his horn in his studio, he looks around sort of angrily and said, well, there's a lot of fucking attitudes in this room right now. I can tell you that. And then he proceeds to play. Well, there's a lot of fucking attitudes in role-playing games. I can tell you that. And there are plenty of channels on YouTube, and I'm not denigrating any of them. I think they're fun. Today pretty much was just a solid listen of a lot of that stuff. For me, when it's a good grift, and I don't take anything away from those guys, because a lot of time they do bookend the horror stories with, this is what I would have done. This is how you can avoid that in the future. That guy's read was completely wrong, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the things I mentioned last night was a lot of those channels, you hear the same stories because they all go to the same well. And you get interesting and different perspectives on the post-mortem, the accident report, the black box reading after the disaster of, why this guy got so angry that he stood up and literally physically flipped a table over, and why they invited the dude back for another session, and why this went on for 9 sessions. They all go to the same subreddits and whatnot and get these stories and talk about them. And that's all well and good. But what I'm doing with Tales of Tabletop Triumph is something completely different. It's 180 degrees around from there. I want to hear the great stories. I want to hear the truly incredible, no shit, there I was, positive stories. And I mean positive through and through. I don't mean it's a horror story and it gets positive at the end because you threw the problem player out, or you all quit the game and started up a good one. If you all quit the game that was a horror story, and then for 3 years after that, you had a blast, tell me about some of the times that were a blast. Don't worry about how you got there. Tell me about the now. And that's what I really want to focus on with Tales of Tabletop Triumph. And it can be any game. Look, I'm not just fishing for first edition AD&D only stories, or original D&D, or basic Dungeon Minister. No, this is anything. I don't care if it's 5th edition. I don't care if it's Vampire or Exalted or whatever. Just frame it in a way that normies who might not play your game can go, oh, that sounds like a lot of fun. And it can be just whatever good that comes out of your game, because our hobby, more than it needs new adventures, more than it needs sparkly dice or cleverly crafted miniatures or terrain or rule books, it needs some positivity. Okay? It needs some of the non-beautiful people. I've gone on that rant before, to say, look, we're not all fucked up head cases. And that's what I want to do with it. That's what I want to bring with it. So that's what I want to do. Now, the catch pan for these stories is going to kind of be the thing. Like, you can make a Reddit for just about anything, but I don't want to go out on Reddit and create a subreddit or what have you, and just be, just be out there where it could get subsumed. I could turn around one day and, somebody doesn't like me, and I'm like, somebody else has made has decided that they've gone to the powers that be, and they've been made a mod there, and I'm kicked out of my own thing, and it becomes somebody else's thing. I don't want to mess around with Reddit, but I wonder what the best format for it would be. It's like, I know a lot of people don't like using Facebook. Comments under YouTube videos can be helpful, but for long form stuff, like a long explanation of why this was the best D&D game I ever played, can be a little bit tricky to try and get into, readable format. And the same with Reddit, the same with Discord, rather. Sorry, the same with Discord. Discord is a lousy system for curating conversations. It just is. So between now and January, because I want to kick this thing off like first week of January. I don't mean like January like 27th. No, I want to start this right after the first of the year. I'm trying to figure out. I mean, I guess ultimately people could mail them to me. But I mean, are people going to take the time to type up a comprehensive explanation of how nobody was that guy and everybody was awesome? I want to give you guys kind of an example of a tale of tabletop triumph. And this is all completely positive. And I'm gonna retell this story in the first episode, because I figure the first few episodes will just be from, the button down mind of one William Sylvie. So I'll tell you guys about the night of the Valkyrie solo. The night of the Valkyrie solo. So set the Wayback Machine to 1993. Now, this was, I had been using the internet for a few years, Usenet and email. The web was just starting to be a twinkle in Tim Berners-Lee's eye. Tim Berners-Lee's eyes. But I worked for an ISP in Orlando. That is, you had an email address, your username at oo.com, and you had access to a certain number of Usenet news groups. And there was a guy who signed up, got an account, paid his monthly bill, because it was all dial-up, right? And we had 20 lines you could access, 20 dial-up lines. There's no broadband. And you could come in and you could use internet time. It was a strange time for being online. But a guy signs up for the ISP one day, and he and I chit chat a lot, and he talks about video effects and that sort of thing. Turns out we've got a lot in common. He likes tabletop role-playing games, and he lives right in the Orlando area. We had very few people calling from outside the Orange County, Seminole County zone around these parts, as it were. So I meet him and hang out with him a couple of times. And so he mentions one night, he says, I was itching to play some Cyberpunk 2020. And so I set up a game with my buddy Phil, my buddy Jason, myself. I was a game master, and I invite Greg. And Greg calls me up the night of the game and says, "Hey, is it okay if my girlfriend Becca comes?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, why not? I just guess she just didn't want to be left at home." So I tell Phil and I tell Jason, Greg's on his way. He's bringing his girlfriend. And we all kind of collectively roll our eyes. Now, I just want to mention something in preemptive self-defense. Two of my previous gaming groups, the first ever gaming group I ran as a DM when I ran Keep on the Borderlands, the first D&D book I ever owned, even without a rule book. When I ran Keep on the Borderlands, half of the group, my sister, was girls. When we later switched to a different DM, a third of the group, it was myself, 3 other guys, and then my sister and Meredith. A third of the group was women. However, at this point, I didn't go to cons, and I only went to comic and game stores to buy stuff and bring home. So I didn't game out in the public. So women doing the tabletop thing was, I didn't know any women who were interested. So I tell the guys this, and they're like, because, you know, a woman is coming into the monastery. So the hour arrives. Knock, knock on the door. I open the door. There's Greg. He says, good to meet you. Good to see you. This is my girlfriend, Becca. Into the house. You guys have seen Fast Times at Ridgemont High when Moving in Stereo is playing and what's her name is climbing up out of the pool. It's like that. In walks this lovely, beautiful, platinum blonde hair in a braid down to her waist. Walks in, and I turn around and look at Jason and Phil, and we're like, and then I said, arguably one of the most stupid things I've ever said in my entire life, but this is tabletop triumph, so, you know, just kind of roll with it. I look at Becca and said, if you want to watch TV or read some magazines, it's right over there in the living room. And she said, oh no, I came to play. And holds up a dice bag and sits down and proceeds to play Cyberpunk. Now, my initial thought was, of course, that she would be of the, what dice do I roll again? You know, reading a copy of Cosmo, what have you. She ate my Cyberpunk scenario alive. She played a solo with deadly efficiency. She was welded to Cyberpunk 2020, and she rocked that table. She was amazing. It was like she had stepped out of a William Gibson novel and to our tabletop. Yeah, Jimmy, it was like that. So here's Becca. Within 35, 40 minutes of her showing up, she has completely blown our expectations out of the water. Because again, we're cloistered monks, right? We played Battletech and Hero System games, and that's it. That's what we did. It was a guy thing. And she came in and she rocked that table. And Becca, if you ever watch this, I just want you to know you are without a doubt one of the best gamers that I've ever gotten to play with. And she and her husband ended up being very, very dear friends of mine. Greg was the best man at my wedding. I haven't seen or spoken to them in a long time. It has nothing to do with tabletop gaming, but a friendship was forged that night, and prejudices and expectations were blown away. Just like grains of sand in front of compressed air. Just all those preconceived notions gone. They leave. Phil and Jason and I are looking at each other like, holy shit. That was amazing. When can she come back? When will she come back? When will she game with us again? And it was just wonderful. It was just amazing. Becca played a Molly Millions kind of character, yes. Now, not with Phil and Jason, but I gamed with Greg and Becca again. We had a long-running Call of Cthulhu campaign that I was the keeper for them. We did the Have You Seen the Yellow Sign from Unspeakable Oath issue 1 or something like that, back when it was just an electronic newsletter. And her and her husband played. Greg ran some fantastic D&D games for us, but it was not only was it preconceived notions just being destroyed by Becca, it was It was an absolutely marvelous friendship that was founded. That is what I'm talking about. Hopefully I'll be a little bit more erudite when I tell it for the show, but that is a tabletop triumph. That is what I want to communicate to people. That is what I want people to hear. Not, and the angry, fat, sweaty nerd said, "That's not how a con save works," and flipped over the table and broke miniatures and kicked my dog on the way out. That's not the story I just told. That is the positivity. That is what I want to bring for the Tales of Tabletop Triumph episodes. And that's a perfect length because that story I just told you guys was about 10 minutes long. They're not going to be live streams, and they're not going to be parts of live streams. They're going to be pre-recorded videos. So I hope you guys will tune in for those, because they'll be in between. It's like I'll still be streaming 5 nights a week, but you guys will get those. We'll see about doing a couple a week just to start. We'll see how I'm doing at the editing and that sort of thing, because I have more. And I want some from you guys. Don't be shy. You don't have to use real names, but we'll get there when we get there. Oh, I have some real RPG horror stories I could tell, but I'm not gonna. So I hope you guys all want to participate in that, because we need it. We need the positivity. It's an ugly world outside. Are you aware of that? Of all the hatred and anger that there is out there, you would think that this would just be the place where we could come together and be in that bond of friendship and hobby, that brotherhood, gender non-specific, of gaming, of tabletop gaming. So let's leave the negativity outside. All right. In here, in this studio, what I bring to you guys is positivity. And that's how it's going to be. And you're going to get those. You're going to get those positive affirmations. And I'll tell those stories. And I'll, the Cyberpunk Becca story is 30 plus years old. I say 30 plus years old. It's almost 30 years old. I don't know what I could tell you guys games mechanics wise. All right. But there may come times when I say, and I break things down and I talk about those elements. But I hope you'll join us, and I hope you'll watch those episodes. And I think it'll be a lot of fun. It'll be a lot of fun. Some of the stories will be just from a few years ago. Some of the stories will be from the hoary old times of when I started. That's just mine, though. I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear what you guys have done, how you've brought the positivity. Thank you, Dave. So that's the kind of content you're going to get there. But speaking of content, I want to take a minute and I want to thank a few people, because I haven't had the banner going tonight. Now I feel like a nitwit. If you want to support the show, you can support us on Patreon. You can support us on Subscribestar. You can support us directly to PayPal if that's how you feel compelled to help. Or you can buy me a coffee. buymecoffee.com/bsylvie. And you can throw a couple of shekels into the tin and help keep the lights on. It literally helps keep the lights on, folks. And there are folks who have helped to do that. Now, the best thing you can do to support the show, hands down, the best thing you can do is click the like button, click the subscribe button, and the bell icon for notifications. Above all, do that, particularly if you're just coming by for the first time. Please click the subscribe button, click the bell icon for notifications. But there are folks who do contribute, and I want to take a moment to thank them. So let me say extra special thanks to Joshua Garlock, Lord Corion, Ricky Maru, Mobius, Kevin Reynolds, Doomsword Deathmaster, Mark Simpson, Damien247, James F. Keck. We will miss you on Friday nights, James. He had to step away from the Gamma World game. William Smith, The Dungeon Minister, Manny Wall, Mark Corey, Kevin Wood, Todd Sharp, Carnivore Farmer, Rob, Jeremy Rule, Bo Ganora, Mikey Mank, Sky Hernstrom, Pete Sullivan, the DM's Council, and Baron Von Headbanger. They all throw in a little bit, and I can't say enough nice about them, but I can thank them at the end of the show. So that's what we've got, folks. That's where we're at. Tomorrow night, we're going to jump back into Deities and Demigods, never you fear, and we're going to start with the appendices. We're going to start with the appendices. I don't think we'll finish them up in a single night. Who knows? We'll have to see. But thanks, everybody, for stopping in. Listen, I love all of you guys. I really do. I mean that. I will be back tomorrow night. We will kick off at 8, and then at 9 o'clock, at 9, we are going to go into Gamma World and explore the radioactive waste with our fun-loving crowd. Until then, everyone, be good to each other. And have an absolutely wonderful evening. And I will see you all next time. Peace.